discussion. And today you're joined by me, Linda Lee. I'm an associate planner with the City of San Mateo. I also have Nicholas Vu, a housing specialist with the Housing Division of the city. We also have Vivian Cito from the Building Division, and she's been renamed as Chat to Me. So if you have any comments or questions, please direct them to Vivian. And her name is currently named Chat to Me. Okay. If you can, please mute your mic. We will be taking comments throughout the breakout room discussion. And so it's encouraged that you chat them to Vivian. And just a quick reminder, we are recording the breakout room session. So Vivian will go ahead and start recording. Okay. So as a reminder, prior to the event, you should have received an email providing the workshop materials and online survey activity. Vivian will also provide that in the chat so everyone has it handy. And the workshop materials describe the existing general plan land use that Joanna, our consultant, had provided in the presentation earlier. It also includes the place type menu. So that describes further the colors that you see in the land use map. You know, the blue, the orange, what does it mean? So that describes the land uses that we'll be reviewing today in our study area alternatives. So just a quick reminder, the breakout session offers an opportunity to discuss and explore each study area and alternative in detail. We can plan to allocate roughly 5 minutes per study area if we'd like to review each one equally. If there's a specific interest that this group has, feel free to enter that in the chat. And the trade-off that we do have if we focus on 1 or 2 study areas is that we may end up limiting discussion on the other 1 or 2. And so again, the chat manager will be fielding all comments and questions through the chat. So please send them directly to her. Just a high-level summary of the different alternatives. So the key differences: alternative A represents the least change in land use designation, and that also means the lowest residential growth. Alternative B represents the second highest residential growth, but would spread that evenly throughout the city or throughout all 10 study areas. Alternative C represents the highest residential growth. However, that growth is concentrated along the more dense transit-rich areas. So that is study area 3 and study area 4. So that's the rail corridor and downtown. And again, each alternative offers a different approach to plan for future housing, jobs, and commercial areas over the next 20 years. And tonight, our purpose in the breakout room discussion is to gather your input on the 3 draft land use alternatives for each study area. Are there any ideas or changes that you view missing from the alternative that you would like staff to further study and evaluate? Feel free to provide the comments as we go through each study area. And again, there are no decisions being made today. We are also not voting whether we like alternative A better than B or C. It's really to gather all the input and take it all and synthesize it as we prepare for the future scenario study. So with that, I'll go ahead and start with study area 2, unless Vivian, you've received any comments in the chat.
Just comments. Wayne said, I continue to be concerned about the effort and statewide to penalize cities that do not meet the state imposed new housing goals. Where is the housing element at this stage? Okay,
so we're going to keep that question on record. Since the breakout group discussion, we're going to focus on the study areas. I'm just going to go ahead and dive right into the study area 2. But we do have your question on record, Wayne. So starting with the first study area, this is 2. So this is the southernmost study area on the San Mateo Belmont border. And so this encompasses the Molly Stone Shopping Center, Bel Mateo Bowl. At the border of this study area, this is the Mattress Firm store. In the middle, this is El Camino Real. So this is represented by existing car lots. And East of El Camino Real, we have Pacific Boulevard. So there's the Valero gas station that's shown in red. So I'll go ahead and just quickly describe the land use colors. So currently the general land use plan represents it as red, neighborhood commercial. It also includes pink, which is the service commercial. So this is along Pacific Boulevard, east of El Camino Real. The main shopping center area, this is represented in teal. It's a mix of neighborhood commercial, high density, multifamily uses. And on the outskirts, the tan and the brown color you see, that represents a mix of high density multifamily along with regional community commercial uses. The different alternatives being considered for study area 2. A again represents the lease change in residential net new homes. What you'll see is that residential uses are being introduced to the Molly Stone Bell Mateo Bowl shopping center area. So this light orange color is low residential. And so this is throughout A, B, and C. One exception is that B and C would consider an orange medium residential use along North Road on the corner here. Another key difference in C, you'll see this blue color. This represents mixed use medium. And so there's an opportunity to consider a mixed use village concept in this study area. B would look at introducing a low rise mixed use. This is along the Maiden Lane area of the Molly Stone Shopping Center. And A would continue maintaining neighborhood commercial, which is represented in the red color. So if you have any thoughts or comments about this particular study area, about the different alternatives being considered, is there preference for more commercial or housing? Feel free to enter that in the chat. And I'll go ahead and pause, Vivian, if you have any comments that you're receiving that you can go ahead and read off.
I have one from Marion. I continue to believe the lack of planning for water allotments is unreasonable. This is so serious and it is not being considered seriously. Why does the peninsula have to absorb all this density?
Yeah, that question sounds like it's related to the RHNA, Regional Housing Numbers Allocation. And I do want to mention that, for the general plan effort, it does consider infrastructure. And, maybe your question or comment is pertaining citywide, but within the study areas, when we do evaluate, the growth of homes, population, and jobs, we do conduct a technical analysis, but that comes after we've select or come up with the preferred alternative for each study area. So it is being looked at in the future. So are there any additional comments, Vivian?
No, just two.
Okay. So with that, I'll go ahead and move on to the next study area. But if you do still have comments about the Molly Stone Shopping Center area, you're welcome to enter that in the chat. We do save it and keep it with our public comments that we receive. So the next study area 6, this is the Campus Drive area. It's located along State Route 92. So what you see in red, this is the Lorewood Shopping Center. It's characterized as red for neighborhood commercial. And along the northern portion, this is the Campus Drive. It's currently designated purple. That represents executive office. And this is, currently what it is. What we know this area mainly is mostly office buildings. The different alternatives being considered for the Campus Drive area, what you'll see is in A, B, and C, there's a mix of different residential uses being proposed. So in A, there is a medium orange residential use being introduced. This is consistent with a planning project that was recently approved for Peninsula Heights, which would introduce about 290 new residential units. So between A, B, and C, you'll see that this medium residential orange is consistent. A would look at maintaining some of the office uses. This is the low rise office in this lavender color. And on the outskirt over here, there would be a low rise residential use being considered. Other key differences, A and B would look at designating Lorewood Shopping Center as low rise mixed use. And again, if you refer to the place type menus, mixed use it includes, not just commercial, it can also allow residential and office use. C would look at maintaining Laurelwood Shopping Center as the existing land use, which is commercial neighborhood in red. C would look at, just changing out all the office uses along the campus drive to medium rise residential. B would look at maintaining some office use, which is this fuchsia color that my mouse is circling around. And so that would be a medium office. And so, yeah, feel free to send us your comments if you have any thoughts, about, do you feel that, maintaining office use, allowing more residential use? Any thoughts about the Laurelwood Shopping Center?
I have,
Okay, go ahead.
I have a question for Murray. Mentioned, is there a consideration for the amount of traffic on Campus Drive? Residential density will create a bottleneck of traffic.
Yeah, so that's a good comment. We'll go ahead and note that in our some of the comments that we're receiving for the study area. So traffic tied with residential development. Any other comments, Vivian?
Yes, I have Tyler. You mentioned recommended keeping a flexible zoning to allow office or residential in this area, as some office is newer and vintage and wouldn't get redeveloped.
Okay, thank you for that comment. Okay. Any more feedback?
No.
Sorry, Linda, I need some clarification. Okay. Was that previous comment pro or against the redevelopment of office? I didn't quite catch.
Yeah, Vivian, can you reread that comment again to us?
Which one, the Tyler one?
Yeah, yes. the flexible
yes.
Office. Yeah.
There's recommended keeping a flexible zoning to allow office or residential in this area, as some office is newer, vintage, and wouldn't get redeveloped.
Great, thank you.
Great. Okay. So if there's no more comments, I'll go ahead and move on to the next study area. Is that good, Vivian?
We are early.
Oh, we are? Okay.
We are really early.
Yeah. So, if you guys would like, I can also, finish up talking about the remaining two study areas. And if we have time, we can do a recap. We can also potentially allow folks in the room to share their comments verbally. Okay. Any thoughts about Laurelwood Shopping Center, perhaps, from this room?
We'll have Murray responding. It seems developers have one view in mind, building. Is there a conflict of interest with particular builders who automatically are awarded the right to build?
Yeah, I'm not sure if we award developers. So a lot of these, because it's private property, when we receive a development proposal, it's they come to us with the application and the proposal. We do not, because this is all private property. It's not a city project per se.
I have another question.
Okay.
I'd like to go ahead and just clarify a little bit on that one. There's not an automatic award to build. I would just point out that there's a permit process when developers come in and ask to build. And what we do is we review it to make sure that it conforms to our general plan and to any specific plan, zoning codes, and applicable city codes or policies, and as well as any other codes and policies, whether they be state, local, or at the federal level. And so entitlements are not automatic. There is a very methodical and standardized procedure that folks have to go through in order to be able to get approval of their applications.
Thank you, Christina.
Okay, I have a couple more questions right now.
Okay.
What was it? Oh yeah, does the general plan, does the general plan consider zoning code changes such as not counting garage square footage as FAR? Many other cities do not count parking structure as FAR.
Okay. Yeah, I'm not sure if Christina's still in this room, but yeah, so the
I'm
floor.
still here.
Okay.
So I
thank
think
you.
that's something that would come later. So I think it's important to remember that the general plan is a very general document. Think of it as a large scale roadmap that shows you where your landmarks are, the main arterials to get there. Then we have tools that we use when we come to a finer level. One of those would be our zoning code, and our zoning code is the instrument that we use to figure out the specifics of what specific land uses are going to look like as they become built out, and also what metrics we use to take the measurements. And so we have different measurements that we would use when we get to that specific level. We have building heights, we have distances from lot lines that properties have to be set back from. We have minimum percentages of lot size that have to be landscaped, maximum
Yeah.
floor areas, which speaks to this question. How we define that is usually in the zoning code. And
Mhm.
so it is a part of that later part. Once we have the general plan, then we can look at our zoning code and see what changes we might need to make in order to implement it.
Yeah, and an easier way to sort of see it is the general plan is sort of the policy guiding document, and the zoning code will speak more specifically to development standards. So definition of floor area, setbacks, as Christina had mentioned. Thank you.
I have two more questions.
Okay.
Lori mentioned the process is designed for planning professionals. I would like to see a comparison of these areas with the current general plan. Need to maintain Lawwood Shopping Center in C.
Okay. Yeah, so we'll go ahead and note that comment from Lori about maintaining neighborhood commercial use.
Okay, and I have Paul's question. Was it? Oh, it's a comment, sorry, not questions. I think range of alternative related to Lawwood Shopping Center are good.
Great. Thank you for the comment. So if there's no further, I will move into the next study area.
Oh, I have one more. From Tyler. In this area, the recently approved housing project will be better zoned as residential low. This area is not near transit, so a high density housing development would not be best here.
Yeah, thanks, Tyler, for that comment. We have heard that in previous workshops about, yeah, if there's residential development to consider also the, the amenities that will go with it, so transportation. So thanks for that comment.
Okay,
All right,
we have
there's
6
no
more.
other. All right, I will move into the next study area, if that's okay.
All right, so thank you, Linda and Nicole, for being in this group. We'll be seeing the next facilitator.
Oh, is it? Are we switching soon? Is that the,
Actually, we have 5 more minutes.
okay,
This gives other groups some time to be
Yeah.
able to put their comments on the other group.
oh, I see. Yeah, so we have about 5 minutes left. I do want to touch upon the next two study areas, 9 and 10. So 9 is the Hillsdale Norfolk area. This is along where the 101 East Hillsdale Boulevard on-ramp, off-ramp is. And so that includes the Kaiser Medical Office, which you see in the pink. This represents regional community commercial. Also includes Hillsdale Inn on this southern parcel. And on the far right, what's colored red, that's land use for a neighborhood commercial. That's the Marina Plaza Shopping Center. And one other thing to note, this tan color, which is high density multifamily, that is an existing assisted senior living facility. And so the different alternatives being considered for study area 9, A, B, and C would look at recognizing, that there is a medical office where the Kaiser is. So we would designate that as medium rise office use. Where the Hillsdale Inn parcel is, that would be updated to low use residential or low rise residential, excuse me. And so that would be consistent with a planning project proposal for residential development here. The Marina Plaza Shopping Center, you'll notice between A, B, and C, there are different land uses being considered. So A would look at commercial regional. So that's a change from the existing neighborhood commercial. B would look at introducing a medium rise mixed use. That's the blue color, while also maintaining regional commercial use, which is this sort of gray red color. C would look at maintaining that red neighborhood commercial use, but introducing regional commercial use into the Marina Plaza Shopping Center. And so if you have any comments, feel free to enter them in the chat. It looks like we have 2 minutes left. So I am gonna go to the next study area. Even though we don't verbalize your comments, they are saved in the chat thread. But I do think it's important for everyone to get familiar with the different study areas when you do the online survey later. So the last study area that I wanna go over is, this is study area 10. This is the Bridgepoint Shopping Center. And so the different existing general plan land uses here, it's a mix of, so the brown color you see where the Bridgepoint main shopping center area is, this is represented as regional, a mix of regional, community commercial, and high density multifamily. The color purple, that represents executive office use. And so that is consistent with the various office buildings that you see in this area. This pink color, that's a regional community commercial, and that's currently the site of a hotel. And so the different alternatives being considered between A, B, and C, main thing is the Bridgepoint Shopping Center. In B, it would look at introducing a low-rise mixed use, which is a light blue color. C would look at introducing medium-rise residential, which is this orange color. A would look at maintaining the existing regional commercial land use. And you'll see around the study area, this parcel along Fashion Island Boulevard, there is consideration in A for a medium residential, which is the orange color. B and C would look at maintaining office use, but at a medium height, 4 to 7 stories. And so those are the key differences between A, B, and C for study area 10. Okay, so we have 1 more minute. Please enter your comments and questions into the chat. And we'll see what we can go over before we get booted to the next breakout room. Yeah.
So far, no comments.
Okay. Yeah, I know it is a lot of content to absorb.
Oh, wait, hold on. I have
Okay.
Paul. In 10, is it possible to fit commercial regional and half the site?
Half the site?
I think it's a typo. In 10, oh yeah, half the site, yeah. So I'm assuming he's mentioning study area 10. Is it
Yeah.
possible to fit commercial regional, spots? Like, I guess he trying to mention the color reference, commercial regional, the pink one or the light pink. You want to know if it's half, can the regional
Yeah.
in half the site?
Okay.
The site?
Yeah, I'm sorry, we do have to move to the next breakout session group. But if you want to clarify your comment, please go ahead and clarify that to Vivian, and we'll keep it on record as a public comment. Thank you all for listening us and being here tonight.
Okay, so while we're waiting for the next facilitator, which will be Julia and Wendy, they're gonna talk to you more on the study session for 1N, 4, 5, and 7 for the study session. So how's everybody's doing? I guess it's a Tuesday for everybody. It's pretty quiet, huh? Feel free to unmute yourself so we don't have a moment of silence.
We're doing well. You all are doing a great job, by the way, Vivian,
Thank you.
you and your team.
I actually really enjoy seeing new development too. I actually live in San Francisco and I always join the general plans. It's nice to see new things change. Especially if you live here and then you see it develop. It's really interesting.
That's a very good perspective. I agree.
The thing is, though, we don't want to see it overbuilt. And that's what a lot of us are afraid of.
And that's what your input will be the best thing. When you guys come to our workshop and let us know your concern, we take those initiative and bring it up to our, planning department and the general plans, and they will try to work it out, to meet both ends, see what works. That's what the workshop is here. And it's a great thing that you guys are, contributing your inputs here. And we're basically keeping all these informations. A lot of people, they want to put inputs and sometimes they don't know where to go. And coming here is the best part, telling us all these great informations.
Great. For those of us who have lived here for so long, the development at the rate that it's going right now
Mhm.
is upsetting.
I see. Hi, Julia.
Hi. I think we're waiting for my note taker, Wendy.
Mhm.
And in the meantime, let me get my slide ready. So,
We have Wendy here now.
oh, perfect.
Hi, sorry, yes, I'm here.
Okay, thank you, Wendy. So one more moment. I need to make sure I can see everybody, so I'm adjusting my screen. So, hi.
Hello.
I see a few familiar names. So I wanted to go ahead and just indicate that we have two things that will be shared concurrently. One is the presentation itself with the slides of the 4 geographic areas that I cover. And then in addition to that, Wendy is taking notes. So we're in breakout room C. So just real quickly, hold on one second, let me adjust the screen. So I'm going to be covering 4 geographic areas: study area 1, study area 4, which is the downtown area, study area 5, which is along San Mateo Drive to Peninsula Avenue, and then study area 7, which is the area straddling both sides of Highway 101, and this is the northern part of Highway 101. So study area number 1, we'll go ahead and cover that first, and then go in numerical order. There are 2 key questions that Joanna had mentioned earlier that we are asking for your input on. And those 2 questions are basically, is this the right range of alternative scenarios? And then are there ideas or changes missing that you would like to see evaluated? So keep those 2 questions in mind as we go through these 4 study areas. So just quickly, my name is Julia Klein. I'm the interim planning manager. And then we also have Wendy Lau with us this evening, who's the note taker.
Hello.
Just real briefly, I think we want to mention that we're going to be covering all of the study areas. There's 3 alternatives for those study areas, and we'll go ahead and cover all of them, as well as provide opportunities for you to ask questions and provide comments. So real quickly, I think the other presentation also highlighted this. There's key differences between alternative A, B, and C. Alternative A has the least change in terms of designations and the lowest residential growth. Alternative B has the second highest residential growth and spreads that growth across all 10 study areas. Alternative C then has the highest residential growth and concentrates that growth with the tallest buildings along the rail corridor area and also in the downtown area. So the first segment that we're going to look at is El Camino. This is the northern segment of El Camino. And so the current mix of land uses are medium and high density residential, as well as mixed use with office and mix in with a high density residential. So going from what you just saw in terms of the existing land uses, we have 3 alternatives to consider. The key differences in these three areas are really, as you'll note in the colors, on Tilton and El Camino in alternative A, it's that light blue color. As you go to see alternative B, that same area is a medium orange color, and that's reflective of medium residential. And then in alternative C, that color changes to this darker blue, which is mixed use high. All of the blue colors reflect mixed use. The darker shading means that it goes from lower mixed use to higher mixed use. And then the other area to kind of focus in on is the area of El Camino and Poplar. In alternative A, you'll see that this area is low residential. In alternative B, that area is changing to commercial neighborhood. And then in alternative C, that area goes back to residential medium. And so those are the key differences in terms of the, these three alternatives. And these colors reflect different net new homes, as well as net new jobs. And that's reflected in the table at the bottom. Are there any comments or questions?
I don't have any questions or comments at the moment that is sent to me.
Are there any areas you would like me to zoom in?
I'm waiting for a few seconds to see if there's any response for it. Hold on.
Okay. I would love to see everybody's faces. If you would turn on your video, that'd be great.
It seems like there's no,
Hi, Tyler. Nice to meet you.
there seems to be no specific study area they want to start first. So you could.
We can go on to the next one and come back if there's additional. Okay, sounds good. So downtown, we have, you can see at a quick glance that the key differences in downtown. In alternative A, this area is the low, it's the medium mixed use in terms of the blue shading. In alternative B, you'll see that some of those areas are changing to a darker blue, and that's mixed use high. And then in alternative C, you see more of that darker blue shading, and that's just reflecting that there's more properties that are potential in that mixed use high category. The other thing to kind of notice is that as you're looking at residential uses, which is the orange color, alternative A and B have this medium orange shading, but in alternative C, some of this area is shaded in a lower orange color, and that's reflective of low residential. And that serves as a transition to some of the existing neighborhoods on both sides. So are there any questions, comments, areas for me to zoom in on?
Yes, Paul would like you to zoom in on the red area.
So there is an area in alternative, that's at the north area. Oops, maybe that's too far. So that is the Mi Rancho Market. Sorry about that. Was there any additional questions, comments, areas for me to zoom in on? Otherwise, we can.
Study area, please comment on the variation of use along Caltrans, south of Fifth Avenue.
Sure. So along the Caltrain corridor, which is along here, in alternative A, it's currently shown as mixed use medium. And what you'll see in terms of this lighter green color, that's reflective of a city facility. So that's going to be the parking garage that the city council recently approved. As you go into alternative B, some of these areas are designated to change to instead of commercial or mixed use. In alternative B, you'll see that that area is shaded orange, and that's medium residential. And then in alternative C, the portion that's west of the railroad is high residential, and then the portion that's east of the railroad is retained as mixed use medium.
I have Tyler mention recommended study high density around the train station and alternative B similar to alternative C.
Okay, thank you for that comment.
And I have Mary mention how high are the buildings and when did we change from 5-story to higher levels?
So we have not changed anything. Part of this exercise this evening is to talk about what, how do people feel and think about these different types of land uses, and get your comments on, the range of the building heights and the range of the densities. And so what we're looking at is a color variation. As the colors darken, you'll note that building heights, get taller, and the same thing, for residential as well as commercial. And so we are proposing in the next 20 years for the community to consider more residential units as well as more square footage, more jobs, to be able to accommodate the growth that's going to be coming. Most communities need to plan for growth. San Mateo over time has grown every single year. And, this whole entire planning effort is really for us to engage with our community, knowing that we need to plan for growth. And so the question really here is, even though existing buildings might be, what we see today is maybe 5 stories, we also have some that are a little bit taller, existing buildings that are around downtown, in Central Park. You'll see that they're taller buildings. And so what we're asking community members to kind of keep in mind is, as the community changes, as we have more residents, as we have, residents today that are aging and may benefit from services and amenities that are closer together, we need to think of opportunities to house them. And then also for our younger generation, think of opportunities to keep them employed, closer to home.
Just a heads up, we have 10 minutes left.
Okay. So if there's no more questions, I can go cover the other 2 areas, and then we can come back if there's a stronger interest in the downtown.
I have one comment first.
Oh, sure.
Mary mentioned comments about sewers usage, water usage, and the demand for water in drought-ridden state.
Those are all, thank you for those comments. Just, even though it's not a question, I just wanted to respond. We are going to be going into a technical analysis phase, which is the next step. And so all of these, in terms of the water usage, sewer capacity, all of that will be part of that technical analysis that we will be doing. So study area 5 is the next area for us to cover. And so this is along San Mateo Drive, going up to Peninsula Avenue, and includes the Wood Lake Shopping Center. So just real quickly, the key highlights are the area along San Mateo Drive and Poplar Avenue. You notice that it's a combination of that red and purple in alternative A and alternative B. The red is neighborhood commercial, and the purple is low office. In alternative B, that area that's along Poplar and San Mateo Drive is medium mixed use. And so those are the key differences along that middle portion. You'll note that in alternative C, south of that area, closer to Tilton Avenue, you'll see some of that darker brown color. And so that's high density residential. Going up north, you'll see that we are proposing to preserve mixed use and commercial. So Safeway as a service amenity for the community, that's remaining. What we're looking at is eventually, maybe there is an opportunity to change along Peninsula. In alternative A, that area may change to residential low. Alternative B is residential medium. And then in alternative C, there's the idea of proposing to do mixed use low. Any questions, comments, any areas you would like me to zoom in on?
No comments at the moment. I'm gonna wait a few more seconds or minute. We could go to the next slide, and if there's comments, we could go back.
Sure, thank you. So alternative, study area 7 is, this is along the 101 corridor. And again, covering a portion of North Central and a portion of North Shore View. And the current mix of uses are a mix of medium and high density, as well as some service commercial uses and neighborhood commercial shopping center area. So of the three alternatives, the key differences are in alternative A, you'll note that along the Amplet corridor area, this is remaining service commercial, which are the mix of uses that you see out there in terms of businesses. In alternative B, some of that area is changing to medium residential and then high residential with this darker brown color. And then in alternative C, these three blocks are changing to residential medium. The other area to note in terms of change is the Shoreview Shopping Center area. In alternative A, some of that area is proposed to be low mixed use. In alternative B, some of those areas are proposed to be medium mixed use. And then in alternative C, you see this darker orange, which is reflective of high mixed use. And with those changes are reflected in terms of net new homes and then also net new jobs for these three alternatives. Are there any questions, comments, or areas you would like me to zoom in on?
Actually, I have a comments from study session 5. They mentioned Celia restaurants will buy them out. I think it's a question mark on the. Maybe Maury could maybe speak. I'm not too sure what's the question. Is it a question or a comment?
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Great. Going back to the Safeway area and building residential mediums along that line on Peninsula, those are restaurants there at the moment. Will you buy them out? Is this something that they're being forced to do, or?
So we're not forcing anybody to sell their businesses or to do anything different than what they currently are doing. What we're asking is a consideration of different types of land uses. And what happens is it provides the property owners with a choice in the future. And so some of these businesses may want to, as they consider the evolution of businesses, they may want to do something different with their property in the future. And as we explore different land uses, it provides them opportunities to consider different types of uses. It just increases their options for the future.
Julia, with all due respect, it just seems that there is a lack of respect for the culture of San Mateo as these different areas that are changing are superimposed on people who have lived here for so long.
So we are considerate of people's input, which is why, part of the reason we're seeking input right now is for residents such as yourself to let us know the areas that should be important to sort of consider preserving. Areas that may be opportunities for change. And so what we're showing in terms of these three alternatives are input that we've received from the community from past events. They may not be fully reflective of the perspective that you're showing currently, but your input is also important. And so I appreciate you providing that comment and that perspective. That voice, I think that perspective maybe had not been shared before. And so, today we have a note taker, Wendy, who's capturing your comment for this study area. And so we'll definitely note that down and include that in the information that we have going forward. But we do want to make sure that we capture that perspective.
If I may just interject for a second, I heard a question about what will happen with the restaurants, but I didn't hear what the individual speaker might like to see there. And I think that's what would be helpful information, is to think about what might be included in a vision for the future, because that's what we're looking at here. And so if there's something in the alternatives that's not captured that community members want to see, that's what we need to know so that we can include it in these study areas. So if there's something in here that folks don't want to see, we'd want to hear that. And if there's something that we're missing that folks would like to see, then we would also like to hear that.
Are you asking a question, Christina?
I suppose I am, because I guess I heard a question, about what would happen with the Celia's restaurant and whether or not we would buy folks out. And as Julia explained, what is the ultimate result or outcome of the general plan may result in some rezoning and some different land uses. It's not a forcing of anyone who's already there to change their existing land use, but as Julia mentioned, it may provide options for different land uses in the future. And so I think that if folks have an idea of what they would like to see, so I guess it's more of a request that that's the information that we're looking for. So if there's something that you want to see, then that would be something to let us know tonight, so we can record that and we can include that in the future.
From what I've heard from certain areas that have been bought out, they have been approached with money, and the money is very tempting considering the pressure to leave. So it's like they're not being honored for who they are, what they've built in this cloud of change that has come over San Mateo. It's like, why? Why change? And if it's in the interest of progress, it really isn't for those of us who have watched what's happening right now.
I sorry, have a little bit of a cough. I want to say one of the things that we're trying to do is look and ask for community input regarding change. There are going to be different perspectives on how that change should occur. I think it's prudent upon most communities that are of this size and of this, the way that we see San Mateo residents expressing concern that their family, their friends aren't able to find housing in the city. And, so we do need to plan for some of that growth to house the people that, that we know that would like to have an opportunity to live in San Mateo. Along with that is a consideration for the services. And so sometimes, as we address the growth of the city, we do need to look at where services can be accommodated and where services changes might need to happen with the businesses in order to address the changing community that's there. That's not to say that, existing businesses should go away. It's more, how do we look at change and how do we plan for that? Nothing's going to happen, immediately, but 20 years is a long time for businesses to consider as they look at the economy and look at what their needs are and how to adjust to changing factors in the retail and in the economy. So thank
Julia,
you for your comment.
I need to interrupt, but I think we're running a little behind and we need to move on to the next room. Thanks.
Thank you.
I just want to let you know, even though your question haven't been answered, we're going to be keeping and saving the comments, so it will be saved. So don't worry about not being answered.
And I do think that it's more a matter, I heard that maybe there's a desire to not see change. And so I would go ahead and log that as a comment.
Hi, everyone. We are going to be talking about a few new study areas here in this session. So just to orient everyone, our session is going to be talking about study area 1. So 2 portions of study area 1. This area between the southern end of Central Park and 92. And then this area down here south of Hillsdale Mall between about 36th and 40th along El Camino. We're also going to be talking about the 101-92 interchange and the surrounding areas, as well as study area 3, which is our largest study area. It includes the Hillsdale Caltrain Station, Hillsdale Mall, Burrell Square Shopping Center, Bay Meadows, and then some of these new developments up here like Concar and Station Park Green. So that has generated a lot of opinions and comments thus far, but let's start with study area 8, and then we can jump into study area 3 once we've sort of gotten our feet wet with this particular layout and map. So hopefully everybody can see my screen. This is study area 8 here. And like I said, it's this area at the 101-92 interchange and the immediately surrounding areas. So right now, just to orient you, the Marriott is here. There's an office park up here to the north side of the study area. It includes this office complex here. Parkside Plaza is this sort of mint green color. The fish market would be here along this red portion here. And then south of 92, this is an office complex now. And so I will run through quickly sort of the high level differences between the three alternatives and then open it up to questions or comments to make sure that we're capturing the right range between one of the three. So to start, this parcel up here at the north end of the study area, which is currently an office complex, is a residential low designation in alternatives A and C. And I think you probably heard in the initial intro, this P with a circle around it is a privately owned public open space. So that would be a component of all three of these alternatives, at least for this parcel. Alternative B, it's a residential medium, so slightly more dense residential land use here. In all three, the San Mateo Marriott stays the same commercial regional designation, as does this office high complex right here. So along the northeast or the northwest of this interchange. These two parcels here to the west of that office complex are mixed use low in alternative A, and then a mixed use medium in B and C. And then Parkside Plaza is different across all three. So in alternative A, it's a mixed use low designation. So 1 to 3 stories. It could be a combination of retail and residential. In B, it's a residential medium. So 4 to 7 story residential use. And then C is a mixed use medium. So again, 4 to 7 stories, could be a combination of residential, retail, office, a number of different things. And then this large parcel here to the south of 92 and bordering Norfolk here is currently an office. It would be office medium in alternative A. It would be residential low in alternative B, and then a residential medium designation in alternative C. And so just to sort of at a high level orient everyone to the differences between the alternatives. A in study area 8, as with the rest of the city, has the least amount of population growth projected. B and C are actually quite similar. So in B, it's about 2,500 additional people projected and 2,700 for alternative C. It's really more where within the study area those people will be concentrated. So for example, in B, you have this residential medium in Parkside Plaza and this office up here, which is would be residential medium. So you would see more population based there versus here in C, it might be in this current office complex here, which would be residential medium, and then a mixed use medium designation at Parkside Plaza. So with that, I know this is a lot of information. I'll open it up to anyone with comments or questions. Are we capturing the right range of alternatives? Is there something missing from one of these alternatives for study area 8?
So far, no comments at the moment.
Okay.
Oh wait, I have one.
Sure.
The arena connecting traffic from those areas to 92, 101 and other air will be too congested.
Okay. Is there a particular, so could you repeat the first part of that comment, Vivian? Is it about the study area in general would be too congested?
Yes.
Okay.
We're gonna go to the next slide. If there's any comments, I'll let you know.
Okay, that sounds good. So let's go to study area 3, which is the largest study area. So again, this study area runs along El Camino Real. This up here is the 92 El Camino exit. This is Burrell Square Shopping Center here. Hillsdale Shopping Center is down here at the southern end of the study area. It also includes 2 Caltrain stations, which are designated here by the little train icon. And then it includes Bay Meadows, the Concar project, Station Park Green. And so a lot of the change that you see across the 3 alternatives is going to be concentrated to the west of the Caltrain line, primarily because this section over here has either been recently developed or is proposed to be developed or is governed by, for example, like the Bay Meadows area plan. So most of the change you'll see across the three alternatives is going to be focused along this section to the west of the Caltrains line. So just to highlight the primary differences, this in alternative A, so Burrell Square Shopping Center right here is mixed use medium. The 25th Avenue corridor would be a mixed use low designation in alternative A. And then Hillsdale Mall is a combination of regional commercial and a mixed use medium designation. Alternative B, Burrell Square is a residential medium designation here. 25th Avenue corridor is slightly more dense. It's mixed use medium in alternative B. And then again, Hillsdale Shopping Center is a combination between mixed use medium and commercial regional here in alternative B. And then lastly, in alternative C, Burrell Square Shopping Center is a mixed use high designation here. And in all three, it has this privately owned public open space. The 25th Avenue corridor is, again, like in alternative B, a mixed use medium designation. And then Hillsdale Shopping Center and the immediate surroundings would be a combination of mixed use medium and mixed use high in the alternative C.
Brian, I have two questions and they
Sure.
will talk back about the study area 8.
Okay.
First one was, what do you plan to alleviate the congestion? And the second question was from Paul, is a shopping center like Parkside Plaza allowed in the noted mixed use destination?
So let's see. First question was related to congestion. So that is something that would be studied based on what the proposed land uses for this particular area. We have, I don't know if you've had the circulation element discussion yet, but the circulation alternatives will be certainly part of the discussion, but that's something that we'd have to study. Sort of as we look at these potential land uses in each of the study areas, we would look at those types of impacts on circulation, on transportation, and take all of those things into account moving forward. And then Vivian, remind me of the second part of the question, or the second question.
The second question is also study area 8. Is a shopping center like Parkside Plaza allowed in the noted mixed use destination?
Yes.
Yeah. So that would be a main difference between the alternatives. So A and C would be a mixed use, would allow for mixed use here, whereas B would be a strictly residential medium land use for that Parkside Plaza parcel.
Great. Just want to let you know we're halfway through the session.
Okay. I'm going to put up the study area 3 comparison maps side by side so you can get a sense of the main differences, but happy to return to any of those alternatives in particular on any of the slides if folks would like to get a closer look at one. Or if we don't have comments, happy to go to study area 1 and folks can submit comments as we go as well.
Let's go to the next session. If there's any comments or questions, I'll pop out.
Okay. So as I mentioned, we have 2 areas of study area 1 that we're looking at here. The first one is this central part. So roughly from Central Park down to 92 along El Camino. And so it's right now mostly a combination of regional and community commercial land uses. And so across the 3 alternatives, you could sort of divide the study area in half in terms of looking at the differences. So if you look at 12th Avenue and North in alternative A, it's primarily mixed use low land uses here along El Camino. In alternative B, it's a combination of mixed use medium, and then there's a mixed use high land use at the northern end. And then it's mostly mixed use medium here in alternative C. And then if you look south of 12th Avenue, you see a combination of mixed use medium here in alternative A, along with office high for these 2 dark purple parcels. Alternative B is a combination of residential high, which are these dark brown, residential medium, and then a mixed use high here at the very southern parcel. And then in alternative C, it's a mixed use medium, primarily these 2 office high designations. and then a residential medium here around 16th Avenue. So I will pause in case anybody has any comments on this or any comments on the prior study area as well.
I'm gonna give it a few more seconds just in case.
Okay. Yep.
Let's go to the next session, and if there's comments pop back up, we could go back to it.
Sure. So the last one is a small portion down here to the south of study area 3 along El Camino as well. So currently a combination of neighborhood commercial and regional community commercial. So it includes this stretch of 37th Avenue here, which is a neighborhood commercial currently. So between the 3 study areas, this section along 37th Avenue and Alternative A stays a commercial neighborhood, as does this section fronting El Camino would be a commercial neighborhood. This section up here, this block north of 37th, where the FedEx is currently, would be a mixed use low designation. Same thing here, at least I think it is, because the Zoom toolbar is cutting off my screen. And then south of 37th Avenue here is a residential low. So commercial neighborhood here, residential low here, and then a mixed use low running along El Camino south from 37th Avenue. And then in alternative C, it's sort of a combination of the commercial neighborhood and the mixed use low. So south of 37th Avenue on the south side would be a mixed use low, as would this portion of El Camino here. And then this southern bit just north of 39th Avenue would be a commercial neighborhood. And then this FedEx parcel up here would also be a commercial neighborhood. And just as a reminder, commercial neighborhood is generally retail or commercial stores that would service sort of the immediately surrounding neighborhood. So it may not be a destination type retail location, but it could be something that's walkable that somebody would run errands to who lived in this immediately surrounding area.
I actually have a comments from Marin. Would you plan to build large building along El Camino similar to what has occurred in Redwood City and San Carlos? The density of the Lego type building through shades and give the impression one is going through a tunnel.
Okay, so comment would be?
Comment would be, would you plan to build large building along El Camino similar to the Redwood City and San Mateo?
So again, this doesn't necessarily mean that these types of buildings would be built, and the city is not going to drive the building of these types of buildings. It's simply looking at, should the land use change or something be redeveloped in these particular areas? What are the parameters we would sort of like to set for what that future development could look like? And so if the comment is that they would like not to have those high buildings along El Camino, we can certainly take that comment and make sure that we're recording it. But I don't necessarily want to presume that that's what the commenter was suggesting.
Ryan,
Yes.
the comment is suggesting strongly that we don't build these long, high buildings similar to Redwood City and San Carlos. It just takes away from the whole warmth of San Mateo.
Okay, so the comment would be sort of lower density along El Camino, or certainly maybe medium, but not high.
Much lower density, especially because of the east-west exposure to the sun. We're just going to throw shadows.
Okay, thanks for elaborating, Maureen.
Thank you.
I have Paul had a question. The red designation is 1 to 2 story, right?
So the commercial neighborhood, generally that would be true. Yeah, it's sort of like small retail locations, like ground floor retail. It would not be high rise or medium density.
Got it. Just want to let you know we have 5 minutes left.
Okay. Are there any additional study areas that anybody would like to revisit in this presentation? I can pull up study area 3 again, which sort of covers most of the El Camino corridor south of 92.
So I have Paul would like to see 1S, which is El Camino South.
Yep. Okay. That's this one right here.
If I may, this is Paul. I was just answering a question in a chat. I was asking a question about the res designation in Zone 1 South. So
Oh, got it.
you covered that for me. I'm not interested in going back. Thanks.
Okay. Thank you, Paul.
Is there anybody want us to go back to any other slides that you guys would like to look back on? Any alternative study areas?
And again, we're looking for comments to make sure that we have captured the right range. Are there things that we're missing? Are there land uses that you think would be appropriate in a certain area that might not be reflected in any of the 3 alternatives? We want to make sure that we're sort of capturing the right range, or at least accounting for those possibilities in at least one of the alternative options.
I'll just add, especially since study area 3 is so big, it's hard for people to respond quickly. This is really where looking at the survey tool after this meeting at your own leisure, where you can zoom in and really look at things, could be helpful. And so we encourage people to do that after you sleep on it a little bit, and maybe have more ideas later.
Yeah, and you'll see even some additional tools on the website if you want to play around with the map or put on a satellite view. There are a bunch of different views you can sort of overlay on this to get a sense of what you're looking at and the differences between the 3 alternatives.
We have 2 minutes left.
Sandy,
Okay.
Yeah.
is there a push for density?
I'm not sure what you mean. Is there a push for density?
Exactly. It just seems that in all of these different pictures that we have seen, these study areas, there seems to be a leaning towards just making San Mateo a lot more dense than it is right now.
Well, the 3 alternatives all assume additional residential units, additional population, and additional jobs. And so given that we have a limited land, that's why all these scenarios show increases in densities. What we're looking at with the 3 scenarios, though, is a range of increase in densities. The alternative A generally has the least amount of increase, where alternative C has the most, as we plan for future growth. So that nobody's pushing anything at this point, but what we are trying to do is, if you take the assumption that the community is going to grow, how do you manage that, and where should it go? And that's why all these color options are here, is to try to make sense of it, because we're assuming that our population will increase over time, and therefore we want to look at the best options on where to channel that.
Just want to let you know we're going to wrap up. The next facilitator will be switching right now.
Okay.
Okay, thank you, everybody.
Thank you, Brian. Thank you, Sandy.
Okay. Good night, everyone.
Okay, our next one will be Brian M. and Sue. They will be talking about circulations, and feel free to send comments to me if you have any questions, comments, or concerns regarding to the slide.
Hello, everyone. I'm Brian Manford. I'm the facilitator. I'm a transportation planner with the Nelson Nygaard. We're the transportation consultant working with PlaceWorks on the circulation element of the general plan. And let me get my maps ready and I'll share my screen in just a minute. And while I do that, I'm joined by Sue Ellen, a transportation planner with the city of San Mateo. She'll be taking notes as well as answering kind of some of the city specific questions. And Carrie Stone, the project manager from PlaceWorks, is also here to answer some of the process questions. Let me share my map. And this is, really zoomed out, so I'll zoom in just a minute, but I want to go over some of the key plans and elements that are consistent across all three of the alternatives. So any adopted plan, such as the bicycle master plan, the citywide pedestrian master plan, is represented here on the lines. Other plans are also taken into account, such as the downtown parking plan, ongoing programs like the neighborhood traffic management program, and other kind of large ongoing projects like the gray dots, which you'll see on every alternative, are existing at-grade crossings at Caltrain. So those are kind of big things that have been ongoing, and we're taking into account. And then some of the regional plans as well. So the Caltrain electrification and modernization, that'll bring more frequent and faster trains to Caltrain. We took that into account, as well as some of the regional highway plans, such as the 101 express lanes.
Brian, could we have you kind of show the whole map? Paul, want to look at the area on the bottom part.
Sure, and you can see these at the strivesanmateo.org website, and I'll be going over what the colors mean in just a second. So those are the things that are on all the maps and take into account for the different alternatives. And then what's unique, or in those colors and in all the maps, is orange, this kind of orange-red color. If it's a solid line, it's existing. If it's a dotted line, it's in one of those plans I mentioned, so a future. So orange is a trail, so this is the Bay Trail. And then the dotted line is a new future condition. We are proposing a new crossing in this alternative of 101 at Cypress, and there's other crossings envisioned as part of those adopted plans. The purple line is bike. So again, if it's a straight line, it's existing. If it's dotted, it's future. And that's from the bike master plan. And then the green dots is kind of this envisioned green pedestrian network in the adopted pedestrian master plan. So it's looking at a kind of a network of more pedestrian friendly streets. So that's things like street trees, the sidewalk, the crossings, those types of things to enhance the pedestrian experience. So, and those are generally the same across all the maps. And so this high kind of dark blue that you see here, there'll be little pieces of it. Those are missing sidewalks in a study area. So that dark blue represents a sidewalk gap that we would fill in with this alternative. This light blue color is in downtown San Mateo on B Street. And so that's looking at pedestrianizing those two blocks, create a pedestrian downtown zone. The green line here on El Camino Real, it runs the whole corridor of the city, is looking at kind of a protected bike lane, or looking at just a safe bike route north to south. And on El Camino, that would likely mean some kind of physical separation protection and other kind of public realm improvements for pedestrians to access transit and and destinations along the corridor. Other changes in alternative A, because there's envisioned growth in the study areas, looking at how to make them safer and more connected. So we have a enhanced and filling in the sidewalk gap, improving the bike lane through the interchange. And then the big blue dot is a safety improvement at the highway off-ramp. So that's true for study area 8 as well as 9, which have off-ramps in them. So those are the pedestrian improvements and enhancements and overall safety changes in alternative A, a walkable city. Alternative B, again, I mentioned the Caltrain business plan and Caltrain service enhancements. So how do we make sure that these new areas, study areas, as well as the whole city can kind of benefit from that? So looking at, and I'm zoomed out because I want you to see the whole corridor, but looking at this thick gold line is kind of a new transit route or maybe shuttle route connecting the study area and San Mateo College to Hillsdale Station, which has the best transit service now and in the future for Caltrain in San Mateo. And then also connecting study area 9 and 10 in Fashion Island to Hillsdale. So that's one element of alternative B, kind of connecting San Mateo to these regional connections. And then also looking at El Camino Real, something like bus rapid transit or other high quality transit service on El Camino. So what that means is defined federally, but it often means things like a dedicated bus lane, bus signal preemption, so the light turns green when the bus shows up, off-door boarding or off-door payment, so you can get on the bus faster, enhanced buses, enhanced stops, different things like that to make the experience faster and more reliable, but also just a better experience. So that's alternative B.
Brian, let me stop you for a second. Paul had a question on the alternative A. Does the El Camino improvement consider changing the number of vehicle lane?
We've been asked this multiple times. I would say yes, because there's going to be some kind of trade-offs, but what exactly that means, is it parking, is it a turn lane, is it a travel lane, those details and what the exact kind of dimensions are, we don't know for sure.
Okay,
but in order to get the protected lane, you would probably have to take space from something else.
Noted. Okay, and he also mentioned on El Camino how many vehicle traffic lane are being considered with, I think it's the abbreviation BRT, BART, I think.
Yeah, for the bus rapid transit. Again, it may not even be a dedicated bus lane the whole way. So those kinds of what the exact configuration of El Camino look like is going to have to take into account, you know, all the neighboring cities, the county, Caltrans, the city. So I can't say exactly what the design would look like, but it could mean taking away a travel lane or a parking lane or a turning lane.
Got it. I have Maureen having a comment saying, thank you, Brian, for the very best future plan for our San Mateo resident. You are ecologically aware, economically respectful, and health considerateness for all. Thank you.
Well, thanks for the comment. So maybe I'll finish alternative C and then we can dive into any other questions and we can go back to some of the others if there's questions. So alternative C, you know, we're kind of combining a lot from A and B. So, you know, we're supporting walking, we're trying to connect people to Caltrain, and then also, is there some kind of emerging mobility or really innovative urban design that we can use to make San Mateo transportation better and a better place? These light blue lines in downtown, because it has a traditional grid pattern, we were inspired by Barcelona. They have a concept called a super block where you kind of have a forced right turn at some of the intersections. And so it allows cars to have access or vehicles to have access, but it also slows them down and calms traffic. And it also opens up a lot of space that can be used for a plaza or outdoor dining or green space. So that's kind of an urban design concept. Again, exactly what the lane configurations would look like, we're not sure, but we do know it's going to be traffic calming and it's going to be, you know, more public space and people space. So that's a concept here for downtown and alternative C. And then also looking at, okay, on El Camino, we're re-envisioning the corridor. Can we do some bus improvements? Can we also do some bike improvements? And can we also do some public realm improvements? So look some of the sidewalk greenery stuff. And so kind of looking at all of the above redesign for the corridor. And then we still have this transit connection east to west in the city, but rather than kind of a traditional transit route, is it you know, it's called a deviated fixed route shuttle. So it still runs around along this route, but maybe it kind of has a service area that it deviates from that route. And then let's say we're 10 years in the future and technology is a little farther along. Is that something that can be automated into some kind of automated shuttle or circulator vehicle? So that's a similar route connecting the same areas as alternative B, but maybe it's a different kind of technology or service that's being implemented. So those are the three alternatives. And now just a reminder, our focus is on answering two primary questions. Is this the right range of alternatives? And are there things missing? Do you have new ideas of things that you'd like to see evaluated in these alternatives?
I just have a comment about the alternative C vision is creative and forward looking, and he want to thank you. We are actually halfway through our session, so if anybody would like to speak, you may do so by unmuting yourself or ask any further questions. Brian could go back to any of the alternative if you guys would like to, you know, look more into the map or discuss more on other sections. And I just want to let you know, I think Paul mentioned alternate C, he thinks this range is reasonable.
Great. Thanks for the feedback, everyone.
Wow, I guess everybody really liked the situation, huh? No comments.
Well, it's our last session. Maybe people are commented out.
Well, feel free to email us in our general plan website. We really love to hear more information from you guys. It's always great to hear whether from renter, residents, business owner, you know, mom and pop stores. Definitely put your inputs. If we don't hear it, we don't know. So it's great to hear from everybody. I believe we're really early, so feel free to chat.
Yeah, if there's any questions too, and you know, the general plan and these alternatives are very high level and kind of pointing a direction. And as I mentioned before, some of these other implementation plans will get down into the details and the implementation. And so that kind of keeping it at this high level and thinking it through can be a bit challenging. So if there's any questions or kind of out of the box ideas that you have, now's a great time to hear them.
Brian, it would be helpful since we got a little time. This is Paul. It'd be very helpful to understand what happens as you finalize these alternatives, and then, you know, will matters like number of vehicle lanes be evaluated in the next phase?
Yeah, so The alternatives will be evaluated both on the land use changes, so the new development and the different alternatives, as well as the circulation network, and the traffic modeling is a part of that. And Joanna, if you have more detail.
Well, that's great. Thank you.
Yeah, that's quite right. And I think we are going to have to make some sort of assumptions about right of way and how the roadway gets used in these different scenarios in order to do a comparison with the traffic modeling and be able to kind of say something about the pros and cons and the differences among these three alternatives.
Yeah, I can see some serious or very challenging trade-offs.
Yeah, I think that's right. And we want to try to do a good job about being very upfront with people in those. I think in my experience in the 3 meetings that we've had about these, when I've been part of the breakout rooms discussing the circulation alternatives, people are excited about these options, but it's easy to get excited about them when you think about them in the abstract. And I know from experience, and I'm sure some of you do too, that when you actually start talking about taking away a parking spot or a turn lane, the conversation is very different. And so I think it's important to give people as we move forward in the process, we're going to be adding detail and giving people more kind of specific information about what some of those trade-offs might be.
So I'll let you know we have 5 more minutes. So I just want to remind people, since the beginning of our breakout session, there were links for, placement type menus, circulation alternative map that you could download. And we also have online surveys. So feel free to look into the link and, check it out. Email us if you have any further questions, if we haven't answered some of the questions during this workshop. Oh, we have Jonathan asking, can you elaborate on I might be butchering this word, Barcelona, Barcelona, super block comments you made?
Yeah, and let me go to the map, but you can think of it as kind of traffic calming, and there's different ways that can be done. So sometimes that's, again, as Joanna said, as it gets refined and we get more detail and kind of model the understandings of what that would do to traffic, this would change, but it can be something like, right, you do a corner bulb out so that, and it would be great to have some pictures, but to shorten you pull the sidewalk out so that you shorten the crossing distance. So that's a really light version of traffic calming. You're not necessarily interrupting the number of travel lanes. And it could be something as extreme, that's not the right word, but as different as, you're driving along here and you're forced to turn right, and you're driving along here and you're forced to turn right. So if forced right turns, and that rather than going through the intersection, and then that allows you to kind of close the intersection. So that's what they did in Barcelona in some areas, and it's a really cool design, and it's been really successful in kind of a downtown setting. But that the trade-offs may mean that means the Caltrain crossings need to be grade separated. So or it might work in one part of downtown and not the whole thing. But that's what this is looking at, is kind of that creating more public space downtown and calming traffic while still allowing for access. You're not shutting down all of downtown's streets, but finding some kind of new urban design alternative.
As you know, we have 4 minutes. And Jonathan also have a question. Do you have a visual you can show us for the Barcelona?
I don't ready, but
Brian, I can look and see if I can find something.
Okay. I just don't want to do an image search while I'm sharing my screen.
It seems to me something like that would be great to have as you further elaborate and evaluate the alternatives?
Yeah, I think part of the evaluation is not only going to be analyzing and comparing the alternatives, but also just providing more information about and illustration of the alternatives so that we can really communicate clearly what we're showing. So let me see here if I can just share. I know we're about to close here.
Brian, can you hear
Oh,
me?
I can't. So I'm going to have to stop Brian from sharing his screen.
Oh, yeah, sure.
Mine. So let's see here. This is kind of an image of what Brian was talking about, where the street is kind of visually blocked off, but if you needed to like get an emergency vehicle or a delivery truck, or if you were a resident that needed to get to, you know, a home on this street, right, you could kind of navigate your way through here, but casual, like everyday traffic is not going to go in there. And so they've reclaimed some of that space for things like tables and planters, while you can see here, there's kind of a little bit of space left to use, to circulate for like emergency or very targeted kind of access, if that makes sense. So the interior of those blocks is a little bit difficult to access because of additions like this, but the exterior is really still kind of functioning mostly as a normal roadway, maybe as Brian said, with some additional plantings or other urban design treatments.
Yeah, and it's taking, you know, the downtown is uniquely a grid, so not every street has to serve the same purpose. And so it lets you be a little more creative. So trying to think of some of the urban design strategies out there.
Right, we have 1 more minute before we wrap up. Thank you, Joanne and Brian and Sue for the facilitating. We'll be breaking back into the main group.
All right. Thanks for your time, everyone, and all the comments.
Yeah, thank you so much, Room C.